Hello and good morning, friends and neighbors, and welcome to the poem of the day. Today is Tuesday, July 22nd, 2025. As it's late July, I was recently thinking about how much I love spending time outside during the summer, but where I live, it's been extremely hot over the past couple weeks. We're currently in a heat warning. Um, where they recommend that you don't stay outside for a very long period of time because it can be detrimental to your health. And this is not even the hottest parts of some parts of the United States. And those are not even the hottest parts of some parts of the globe. And so it's a bit tantalizing how beautiful it can be outside and how with all of the sunlight it seems to invite you outside, but then you have to stay in and just kind of gaze outside. And it's a little bit of a shame and a sadness. So I was looking through this morning this collection called "You Are Here: Poetry in the Natural World," and it's edited by Ada Limon, who is the 24th Poet Laureate of the United States. And I was drawn to this poem this morning by Alberto Rios, which is called 20 Minutes in the Backyard. So I'll read it now and then offer a short reflection at the end. This is 20 Minutes in the Backyard by Alberto Rios. I had a hard time finding the year on this, but based on when he published other things and when he was named the inaugural Poet Laureate of Arizona, I'm guessing it was around 2017. 20 Minutes in the Backyard. The house sparrow flies to the ground to get the seed that has fallen from the feeder. In doing so, it flies through a bit of spider web, which works as something like a phone call to the spider, who then answers with a hello, careful and very quiet, but nobody is there. This happens a lot to spiders. It makes them grumble about the neighbors who walk across the spider's curious lawn. But the complaint is hollow. Sometimes someone is indeed there, a fly, a moth, any number and manner of very small beast. They try to run away, but are tripped up by the long, thin fingers of the web. The small thing quivers, asks politely, please, to be let go, followed by a sincere apology. But a spider does not have ears. This explains why it does not hear the house sparrow swoop up into the air, high enough to reach the spider. Few leaves rustle, while the whole world simply moves forward. This is the Saturday business of the immense backyard conglomerate at work. If one listens, one might hear the great bustling city of it all. The small sirens and screams, the caterpillars backing up, the geckos at their mysterious work. All right. So I think there's a lot of lovely things about this poem on the surface, but even as I did a quick Google just to find the text of it to place within the post here, I think there's also a bit of a perhaps darker or more violent undertone that a lot of the initial hits I was getting on Google weren't really backing me up on. This poem, a lot of the times when I found it in the first page hits of Google, was used as an inspirational poem, or people selected specific lines out of it to use as prompts for their own writing. Others used just the idea of spending time, 20 minutes outside in your backyard and listening and recording the imagery of multiple senses, as Rios does here, as a prompt for their own poems, all of which I think are beautiful and generative and valuable things to do with this poem. Some things about it that strike me as beautiful. The poem is in all of the stanzas are two lines. They're all couplets, although they don't rhyme, as you might have heard while I was reading. And the first image is contained entirely within those two lines. The house sparrow flies to the ground to get the seed that has fallen from the feeder. After that, we go, in doing so, it flies through the spider web. So that whole opening image is just contained right within those first two lines, which end punctuated by a period at the end of the second line in feeder. And so the poem seems to conform to its own layout on the page already, which I think gives, lulls us into a sense of comfort and into a sense of everything is in its right place as it should be. After that, we get this extended drama with the spider and the flies that are getting caught on the spider's web. And that extends through, I'm going to say, about 6 of the successive stanzas here, throughout which the spider is often likened to a grumbling neighbor or a sort of get off my lawn person that we might know, that it's territorial, but also the background knowledge that we bring to what spiders do. We know that it's not just asking the fly off its lawn. We know that it's going to kill and eat this fly as well. And within this part, Rios is using a lot of kind of anthropomorphizing of the insects and of nature in order to add some drama to what's inherent in nature, which is this kind of mix of both beauty and violence. But there's an order to it. Because it doesn't have ears to hear the pleas of its victim, it also does not have the ears to hear that it is about to become the prey of the sparrow, whom we heard about in the first 2 lines of the poem. After that, we get kind of an objective, I'm tempted to say bird's eye view here, that suggests the whole world simply moves forward. So the drama that we had throughout the first, 14 to 16 lines, even though we get involved kind of as hearing as gossipy neighbors, Rios reassures us that this is just simply the order of the day and simply the way that nature goes about its business. He says, "This is the Saturday business of the immense backyard conglomerate at work." So within the word conglomerate, also, it almost sounds like something that's industrial or something that's business-like, but there's also within that word, that prefix con, a working together or coming together. And building off of that, he then says you can almost hear a bustling city to it of sirens and screams. And to immediately go from bustling city, again, we're getting an anthropomorphizing metaphor there, but then his imagery description of that is small sirens and screams. It doesn't say something like, the vivid laughs and joys of children at a fair or something like that, right? The things that make it like a city are the bits of urgency and the bits of pain and the people that are crying out here. The caterpillars backing up, the geckos at their mysterious work. And so I think those last few lines, last few words, having to do with mystery and the focus on a caterpillar, which we all know is often thought of, at least within literature or myths, as a figure of transformation. I think what runs through this poem is not just kind of a serene surface level beauty, but also the tension of violence that goes in with nature. And Rios seems to suggest that that's not something that's separate from us, as I talked about at the beginning of being inside versus going outside, but that the violence that's inherent in nature is something that might also be inherent within the cities we build that we think of as separate from nature. I also can't help but hear, and this is using a bit of his own bibliography, he's written a lot about people living on the border. I can't help but hear a lot of that vocabulary of intolerance or vocabulary of transgression or invasion within this poem as well, specifically the way in which the spider grumbles about the neighbors who walk across the spider's curious lawn. This idea that even insects have a concept of space that belongs to them and space being violated, and that something that isn't like them is out of its place. I'm hearing a lot of that in the poem as well. I don't know that I would call the poem entirely a poem about immigration, but I do think that there's an undercurrent there that he's talking about. I think that's all I'm going to say about this poem this morning, though. Like all the poems, there's many other things that we could say we could talk about this for hours, probably. But I hope that you enjoyed, and maybe as you look back over it, you have some observations of your own to add, maybe lines or images that stuck out to you that I didn't particularly focus on. And I wish you all a good day, and may peace be with you all.